Line. Brought to you by Helene Curtis, makers of Stop-Ep deodorants, flowing cream, spray, and stick, Suave hair dressing, and End and Dandruff Treatment shampoo. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
The reason for that turn is that Dorothy and I decided that we would do the new look tonight. Do it in is, I think, what we've done. This is called the Ascension dress. You pull the strings, and right after the show, I take off. And now my husband, who is a glass of fashion himself, has a fashion note to make, Mr. Martin Gabel.
As you know, Bennett Cerf is a bitter enemy of the new chemise look. Well, as a gesture of goodwill to the designers of New York and Paris, Dorothy has consented to wear a chemise for one evening. Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I realize you're not applauding me, but my courage. And now, the man who started it all, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. I figure that either these two girls have lost an election bet, or that a couple clowns over at the circus in the Madison Square Garden are going to be awfully angry when they see their costumes are messy. And equally staggered by this display is our MC. I hope he has the strength to get out here, Mr. John Daly.
Life gets more parlous every day. And I know now you want me to say something about sack dresses. Well, I ain't going to say nothing about sack dresses. I will welcome all of you here to What's My Line tonight. I'll tell the panel, including Mr. Bennett Cerf, that we've got some sacks that we're going to drop over your heads. Difficult occupations, and we trust they give you a bad time. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later in the show, and we'll meet our first challenger in just 1 minute. Now let us meet... Nobody may be incoherent. There's a sacky sentence for you. Now let's meet our first contestant. Will you come in and sign in, please? Thomas Lee. There, you might not be able to... All right, take it. Where are you from, Mr. Lee?
Ocean City, New Jersey.
Ocean City, New Jersey. Well, it's nice to have you with us. And take a quick look now. Panel, Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee, the panel. Will you come over here and join me? Do you know how we keep score?
Yes, sir.
Fine, then let's let the folks at home and those who've been good enough to come and join the audience here in the theater tonight know exactly what your line is. Thomas Lee is salaried. Let's begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen, of course.
Mr. Lee, do you work for a profit-making organization?
I beg your pardon?
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
Yes.
Is there any product involved in what you do?
No.
That's 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Lee, is what you do in any way whatever connected with the entertainment industry?
Yes, sir.
It is. Would you ever appear outdoors?
Yes.
Have you ever been connected with a circus or carnival?
No, sir.
That makes it 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
When you appear outdoors, are there other people participating in this entertainment with you?
Oh, yes.
Would it ever be considered a sport?
Yes.
My husband is nodding, and when my husband nods, it usually has to do with the sport of kings. No. Do you have anything to do with racing?
That's right.
Martin, is it anybody you've ever bet on? Is this gentleman a jockey?
Yes.
Yes?
Well, I'm afraid the panel were a little bit too good for us, Tom. They kind of sacked you early on, but in view of the sacks, we'll throw all the cards over. That's just in honor of the sacks tonight.
John, Arlene owns a horse called Cutpurse. Perhaps one day Mr. Lee would consent to ride it.
I certainly would.
From the way things are going now, Mr. Lee, I think you could run faster than Cutpurse.
Actually, how long have you been riding, Tom?
Well, I've been riding about a year now, but I've had many injuries and many mishaps. It's setting me down.
Oh, I see. So that actually you've had a good deal more experience, but your riding's been held up by the accidents. You fall off the horses?
Well, I had horse bolts with me, and I've had horses throw me and hit me, you know.
So this is a pretty dangerous occupation,
Oh,
isn't
it certainly is.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I must say I've always had a tremendous respect for a horse, particularly when I was on his back or at his back, one or the other.
There's good money in it, though, John. For
Yes.
jockeys.
For the jockeys? Well, Tom, I hope that there is. I hope there's a fine career in it for you, and may you have many firsts and lots of success. And thanks for being our guest in What's My Life. I must say, Tom should have a good future. He rides for an owner named Mr. William Christmas. So, Christmas every day. All right, let's see what we can do with the second challenger now. Would you come in and sign in, please? Hilda. Broken, is that right? Miss or Mrs. Broughton?
Mrs. Broughton.
Mrs. Broughton, and where are you from?
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. Well, you have come a long way. That's nice to know that you'd come this far. Mrs. Broughton, the panel, Mrs. Broughton, will you come and join me? And tell me, do you know how we keep score?
Yes, I do.
Oh, that's fine. Then let's let everybody at home and our friends in the audience in the theater know exactly what your line is. Is salaried, and let's begin the general questioning with Martin Gabel.
Mrs. Broughton, is there a product connected in any way with what you do?
Yes, there is.
Is it something that I might use?
Yes.
Is it something worn?
No.
That's 1 down and 9 to go. Miss Kilgallen.
Is it anything that has ever been alive, either in the animal or vegetable kingdom? Yes. Well, if that needed a conference, very alive, huh?
We're talking about your dress.
Was it in the, or is it in the vegetable kingdom?
The vegetable king.
See?
No. It's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Well, then we've got it confined, Mrs. Broughton, to the animal kingdom.
Clearly.
Is the product, is the animal alive? Well, it must be. Isn't that, I'm correct on that, am I not?
Well, we did have the query as to whether or not this was in any designation whatsoever in the terminology animal, mineral, and vegetable, animal or vegetable, and we have now come to the admission that it is not vegetable. Now, you can make such assumptions from this point on as you wish.
I wish to assume, John, with your permission, that it is the animal kingdom. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes.
Now, look at all the time we've wasted on it. Is the animal alive when you dilly-dally with it?
Very much.
It is.
Very much alive.
Is it still alive after you have completed your work?
Oh, yes.
Is it a domestic animal that you work with?
Yes.
Wait a minute. I'm afraid I'll have to, if you don't mind, just imagine, oh, what wonderful pets. That makes it 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Francis.
Well, John,
Not
doesn't
domestic.
Mrs. Broughton know her own mind? She said yes.
Yeah, Mrs. Broughton, as is so often true, actually, Martin, is a little nervous. She's not used to these television cameras.
When she says yes, you say no.
That's right. That makes me more nervous than
Because he's
Mrs. Broughton,
cool.
and things are getting really out of hand.
Is it edible?
Yes.
Would it ever be found at the luncheon table?
Oh, yes.
Is it four-legged?
No.
4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Gabel.
Does it crawl?
No.
5 down and 5 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Could I have a definition from you, John, of what doesn't crawl? Would you consider something that slithered, something that didn't crawl?
Well, I mean, does a snail crawl, for instance?
I would say that I would be prone to yield a point or two on the slither. But in this instance, it wouldn't make any difference anyway.
This is something that doesn't crawl, and it also doesn't slither.
Well, you could say slither, but it wouldn't have the same application as crawl.
No, I know that. Well, but what I'm trying to find out is if I say slither, will I get a no?
While it would not be an exact description of what this here does,
I think he's committed, Dorothy.
I would have to agree that as a picturesque explanation of its mode of locomotion, this would not be untoward.
Thank you, John. Is this a no-legged animal?
A no-legged animal?
Yes. Yes. Is it in the reptile family? No.
That makes it 6 down and 4 to go,
That's
Mr.
one's
Cerf.
education, doesn't it, John?
Mrs. Broughton, Portland, Oregon, of course, is near the Columbia River where a lot of salmon have their habitat. Would you be possibly connected with fish in some way?
Yes.
Are these fish large fish?
Sometimes.
Well, is it any member of the salmon family that you deal with?
Sometimes.
Oh, you mean you deal with more than one kind of fish?
That's right.
Poor fish. Good.
Are then you're in the fish business?
No.
No.
It's alive when it...
Miss Francis.
Yeah.
You don't have your own fish business, but you're involved with fish. Is that what we've decided now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you separate the sick fish from the well fish?
No, I don't think we can
Not an
describe what you do
overseer.
in separating the sick fish from the well fish. That makes it 8 down and 2 to go.
Mrs. Broughton, despite the fact that many fish are edible, does what you have to do with them bear no relation to the fact that they're edible? In other words, you might, for instance, make earrings out of gills or something of that kind.
Well,
I would say that the application of Mrs. Broughton's talents with regard to fish has nothing to do with their subsequent
Edibility.
edibility.
Thank you, John. I've then made a relevant question.
Yes.
Okay. Do you take something out of the fish?
no, I don't.
What an unpleasant thought. 9 down and 1 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Before you get the last, may I ask for seconds?
You may have 15 seconds for a conference.
We haven't established whether she works for a profit-making organization, and it may be a state fish hatchery or something. And if we could find out if she
How would
works
that
for the
help
state,
what she does?
well, then it would be something to do with fish conservation. Or
Well, they're still
or
alive.
labeling them. Well, they are
They're
alive.
still alive when she finishes with
Well,
them.
that's what fish conservation is, Dorothy.
All right.
Teach them how to swim.
Would she have anything to do with them spawning or going upstream or anything like
I'm
that?
sorry, but we've already exceeded the limits of time that were
Wait.
permitted
All
for
right.
this conference.
Could
Miss
I ask
Kilgallen.
Bennett's question then, because I really haven't got a better one myself, except I was wondering if she put anything into them. Do you work for a non-profit making organization like the government? Yes, I do. You see. Is it the Bureau of Conservation? No.
No. That's 10 down and no more to go. But I must give Bennett credit. You were beginning to get on the right track. Actually, Mrs. Broughton works for the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and her job is to count fish. She sits in a cubicle about the size of an elevator at Dell's Dam, is it?
Oh, come on, John.
No, I'm serious.
How does that help the engineers?
Counts the fish as they go up the fish ladder.
We fish counters also identify those fish as well as count them.
They go up the ladder.
By
Yeah.
name, they
This
go
is
over the counting
mackerel,
board.
salmon, sardine, John Daly.
And fish don't look any different or sillier going up a ladder than, well, a sack
Well, I
dress.
was thinking
What does it have to do with the
salmon?
Corps of Engineers?
This is one of their responsibilities.
The dams on the Columbia River are the responsibility are built by the Corps of Army Engineers, and they also have charge of all of the.
Want to know how the dams are doing?
Well, you see if the
Fish
steps
ladders,
are,
they're
you see if the
interested
steps are too high for the fish and things
85.
like that.
There are 85 steps at the Dallas Dam, and there are 90 steps at the Umatilla Dam. 75.
Must be mighty tired salmon.
Well, they're very tired. They're easy to count.
It's a lot of damn steps, isn't it?
I'm only a guest here, of course, but as I understand it, that kind of remark is only allowed to one member of this show.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true. But his mind's so full of sackcloth and ashes these days, I took over. How many kinds of salmon do you have?
We have the Royal Chinook salmon, we have the Jack salmon, we have steelhead, we have blueback, silverside, and chum salmon. We commercial fishermen call those dog salmon because they actually bark when you catch them in a net.
Don't forget.
They what?
They bark when you catch them in a net.
Miss Dorothy?
Well, I was just wondering, suppose Mrs. Broughton made a mistake and counted wrong on the Chinook backs or something. Who'd ever know she was wrong?
No one does.
No
The
one.
fish would know.
The greatest job in the world.
The fish don't even care, just so they go.
There's one more kind of salmon. Salmon and Schuster, you mustn't forget.
That'll be all. Thank you very much, Mrs. Broughton. It was wonderful to have you here. We'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just... Now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which I ask my friends on the panel to blindfold themselves. Blindfolds all in place, panel? Mm-hmm. Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time, moving clockwise, and we'll begin it with Arlene Francis.
Well, that was a sensational reception. Is it possible that you might have appeared at the Academy Award show that took place this week?
Yes?
Mr. Gabel?
Are you a woman?
No.
Well, this leaves me in something of a dilemma. I think what we'll have to do there is consider that the question was asked and...
A girl would have been more appropriate, is that it?
Yes.
So I think that probably puts it in focus.
Being
Mr.
married,
Gabel.
I dig that sort of thing.
Well, are you a husband and wife team?
Yes.
Mr. Cerf?
Did one of you win one of the Academy Awards the other night?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Oh, that's who I thought it was, Joanne Woodward. Paul Newman. Were you one of the nominees?
No.
Were
Now,
you...
this is difficult to gauge. Me. Actually, I think here, to be fair, if you all will agree, we will consider that our guest was a nominee, Mr. Gabel.
Is it a fact that one of you did win an Academy Award?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Are you Debbie and Eddie?
Debbie and Eddie
Fisher.
Fisher?
No.
That makes it 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Well, now, the fact that you're taking turns answering may mean that sometimes we get a no because the wrong person happens to be answering. So I want to
Bennett,
ask it this way.
No, where that has happened, I have corrected the answer. So
In other
you've
words,
not been misled.
we
in
can
something.
count that on the fact that neither of these people were nominated for an Academy
No, you
Award.
can count on the fact that neither has won, but that one
of them
was nominated.
Was nominated.
For a performance, John?
We have.
Or in connection with a song?
This is a question which can reasonably be asked by Mr. Cerf if he'd like to ask it.
I would like to ask, if I might, whether the one who was nominated for either a leading actor or actress or the best supporting actor or actress.
Yes?
Miss Francis?
There was so much talk here. I didn't quite hear whether...
It was a nominee for either
Yes, that I
best
understand, but
or
I didn't hear
supporting.
whether they were married. Did you ask that? They are married. Husband and wife team, I'm sorry. Are you here because you have just opened in a picture or are about to open in a picture?
Si.
Oh, a
Mr.
Spanish
Gabel?
picture.
John, may I take a guess?
Yes.
Are you Tony Franciosa and Shelley Winters?
Tony Franciota and Shelley Winter?
No.
That makes it 4 down and 6 to go, but good guess.
Thanks a lot.
Miss Kilgallen.
Well, was the one who was nominated for either supporting or any Academy Award for performance the male member of the team?
No.
5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Well, for goodness sake. Well, let's get it down to either lead or supporting. Were you nominated for the best actress?
No.
May we have a conference?
That's 6 down and 4 to go, and you may have 20 seconds for a
I
conference.
only need 5. Do you think that we could be led up the garden path and that they were a husband and wife team in the movie but not in real life, like Red Buttons and that darling girl who played
But
opposite
Red
him?
Buttons won.
No, Leon, so did the girl.
Oh, sorry.
little bit
Cancel
more
me out. I'm shaky tonight. Back to your sack. No, but I think we... who's up?
You are up.
Sorry, Dorothy. Well, now, if you are here for a picture that is about to open, could it be The Young Lions?
Yes.
Mr. Gabel?
Guess somebody.
I can't.
Are you Hope Lang?
That's half of it.
Well, I think we'll...
I know
Murray,
her
Don
husband,
Murray.
Don Murray. Well, I'm going to penalize you 4 points because Bennett was out of turn anyway, so that we'll tip it over. It's 10 down and no more to go, and it is indeed Hope Lang and Don Murray. I might say married in real life and one of Hollywood's most popular young couples, and they are here for the Young Lions, right?
Yep.
Which we hear is an absolutely sensational picture, and that you're
Which
supposed
I
to be
know is a
congratulated.
sensational picture.
The
because
book was
I saw it.
published by Bennett, sir.
The book was published by whom, did you say, man?
Random House.
Random House. Who's over at Random House we know?
Mr. Donald Klopfer.
Oh, yes. Has a partner named Bennett Cerf. I do remember
Yes, I
that
believe
very
you have.
well.
And it was written by a great friend of all of ours, Mr. Irwin Shaw.
Mr. Irwin Shore. And to get to more recent, but by no means old history, Miss Lange was at the Oscar thing for a very distinguished performance in another picture that has got a very high rating with the public, Peyton Place. So that we'll hope you go on next year to that same stage and that your good husband is there with you in his own right and that you get Oscars, so many of them you can't carry them off the stage. How will it be?
If I
Don,
remember correctly, Don Murray played with another blonde in a picture. Didn't he? Weren't you in Bus Stop with a certain
No,
blonde
actually-
girl? What was her name again?
Well,
Miller.
actually, that is where you two met, wasn't it?
No, we've known each other for about 7 years now.
Oh.
We got married during that picture.
You got married during the picture. Well, maybe I ought to get into the movies and see what goes on here. Getting married when you could work. Well, thank you both for being our guests, and it was wonderful to have you with us, and hope you had as much fun as we had having you with us.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this word from our sponsor. It's possible that Mrs. Phyllis Cerf will get even for all womankind come Friday next. After what happened here tonight, the Cerfs are going to be on person-to-person next Friday. Maybe the score will be evened out there. We'll see what happens. On that happy and hopeful note, this is John Daly saying good night, Miss Arlene Francis.
Good night, John, and I will see you later, Martin.
Yes, dear. Good night, Dorothy.
Good night, Martin. So will I. Good night, Bennett.
Girls, please, next week be your beautiful selves again. Good night, John.
Good night, Bennett. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us on What's My Line?